looks like most of the people here know what's getting ready to happen. How many people have not heard about him? Okay. Y'all in for a ride, buckle up your seats. I don't need to spend a lot of time introducing this brother. His reputation speaks for itself, 13 plus years. Going on a metaphysical trip. He's going to drop you right back off, same place. You be safe and sound when you go home. Plenty of information to follow up on, and all the references that you can have. Without further ado, introduce Brother Bobby Hemmitt.
Well, good to be back in Baltimore. Always a treat just to come before black people wherever we are, you know, and come before the people. I guess the good word to say is the cosmic elite, and we're going to go into some things today based on how you line up as this coming of the cosmic elite, or the cosmic rise of the return of the gods, and it's none other than us. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read a piece. Y'all go back to a time when we didn't have the technology. You know, just like they tell you on that plane, cut them cell phones off. You know, because you know, we got to do that in this digital age or whatever. You know, not necessarily that it's disrupting. It's just that it gets on the camera and the people, you know, out in TV land complain about it also. But I'm going to talk about basically, I'm going to go pour some libation in a few minutes, on how this thing all comes back down to our lap. We've broken this thing down to the least common denominator of what everybody has been worshiping all these years and wanting to come back is none other than ourselves. And we're going to go into the actual aspect today of how that's actually happening. A lot of new information and a lot of new things we can do also. So I'm going to pour some libations just basically to start it all off, to get that out of the way. I'm just going to, just off the top of my head, I'm not going to do a long one because they all know who they are. We're going to, you know, spit the Canadian whiskey is what this is, and you know, they like any kind of alcohol. It's even in the movie, what's the name of that movie? The Muse. The movie The Muse with Sharon Stone. She was talking about the gods and how they just, it's alcoholics. Yo, they are drunks. Zeus and them are drunks. But in so many words, it just means a spiritual spirit. Now this is interesting because they got a big billboard. A big billboard, you can see it all over the country with Marvin Gaye on a Hennessy billboard. So a couple of people have made this statement, demanded they have to have it on alcohol, that they have to have it on an alcohol commercial or whatever, or advertisement. But then again, what is more fitting than spirits? I mean, you know, and we got to understand this, Marvin Gaye was a product of a nightlife in a particular aspect. The people that basically was listening to his music and enjoying his music was engaged in a certain nightlife or certain social parties that involved alcohol. So that's fitting also. But if you understand spirits, then you'll understand that in actuality, spiritus, alcohol, it goes right along with all of the spiritual things with the gods and everybody else. Is that her? Well, here, hey, yeah. Oh, you just got in? Take this up. Too late now. I just started the lecture, so I'm going to have to call you later. Yeah, I'm cool. It was cool. I just wanted to say something, but you know. All right. Yeah, shoot. Technology done caught up with me. Hell, here you go, man. That's why I don't fuck with them. Damn cell phone. But anyway, we talking about spirituals, alcohol. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until the early 1900s or the early 1800s, no, the early 1900s that they stopped using alcohol in regular church. When you talk about wine, if you talk about, it was the Welch's grape juice people who produced the product to give to people so they wouldn't have the alcohol in there, and that caught on, and that's when they started doing that with communions. But in actuality, it did it a disservice because the simple fact the whole concept goes all the way back to ancient times, all the way back to Phoenicia. And it's interesting here because we're going to be talking about a God today, and a God today that came through. What's happening here is now we're being led directly, not so much from the scholarship, we have all that, but these particular entrances will come through. This particular God, the God Pan, that's the God of nature in Greece, but actually the Greeks got it from the Phoenicians, known as the Minoans, the Minoans, and also in Christianity it'd be the Canaanites. In so many words, they are the Phoenicians, the black seafarers. And this is one of the chief ancient deities, Pan. It comes from the Egyptian origin of the dynastic Egyptian or dynastic Hemmitt Set. And you know, Set, before it became degraded into a enemy in Egypt, was the most primordial god of all time. And then his attributes became Osiris, Anubis, Tahuti, Pan, and Dionysus. So this fella showed up about 2 weeks ago. And what we mean by that is these particular entities actually start contacting certain people. In this particular case, it's my mate, and showed up, so I'm going to go into the lecture. But it's just interesting because we talk about the whole alcohol thing, but we also talk about this Marvin Gaye poster, and with alcohol. And this particular Pan later on becomes Dionysus, and Dionysus is none other than a form of Osiris. So just introducing people to a new spectrum of information. This particular image of this particular God later on was chosen to become the devil's image by the Christians. There was no image of the devil. They just said, well, we didn't need an image, so they just chose the Greek god Pan. You see what I'm saying? It would become the horned image of the devil. The point I'm trying to make is he's a god of alcohol, or the wine, or the vine. Later on, that would be associated with Jesus Christ. You see how these things all interconnect. The interesting thing about the Marvin Gaye poster is, or the billboard is, if it wasn't for a Hennessy advertisement, we might not have seen this big billboard with Marvin Gaye 1 year, Isaac Hayes 1 year, Pam Grier. I look up, I see Pam Grier. You know, and so by any means on how these particular images come to us, they are still images that we should, you know, we should basically appreciate or basically hold up. Like take for instance, the passing of Richard Pryor. Now, that's a great loss in a particular way because we know that Richard Pryor was a revolutionary figure at the particular time after COINTELPRO had stopped the black conscious movement that overlapped from the 60s on into the 70s. Then you start having people, and you had two major figures alone in the 70s, especially from the mid to late 70s, was that basically black people really followed, or black people really looked up to, and one was Richard Pryor, because Richard Pryor is the one that, you know, that gave us the comedy, you see what I'm saying, that gave us the social aspect of social protest and kept us aware in his comedy. And the other one was not Martin Luther King, was also Muhammad Ali. Now it is interesting here that both of those particular people these days would end up with disgusting situations as far as their health or as far as what happened to them. And it's not by coincidence. Now we know that the one part is documented with Muhammad Ali of this white woman that used to follow him around to all his events. and it's in his movie The Greatest that came out in 1975. And she gave some statement in the movie, but the real statement was she told him that, you probably heard this on my tape, she said that with a big mouth that you speak out of, one day you won't even be able to speak out of that big mouth. And they made that a reality. You see what I'm saying? They made that a reality. By whatever type thing, because you know our concentration camps, or our particular concentration camps, or our killing fields is the hospitals. And when we get into this today and all, this is one thing that is clear that you have to stay away from that. The other part is, when it came to Richard Pryor, it was said that he was given a lobotomy in 1980 when he went to, when he got burned up and had to go in the hospital and all that kind of stuff. Because it was interesting because he wasn't the same after he came out. The one from the 70s and the one from the 80s, you see, post-1980 is a different Richard Pryor that later on led to his demise as far as his condition that got worse and worse. By the 90s, he's basically wheelchair bound and held hostage. You see, and if you saw pictures of him the last 2 or 3 months, when he made the transition, boy, I was a person that basically rejoiced. You see what I'm saying? I rejoiced for the simple fact I knew that this particular brother was out of the misery. And I know we say that a lot of time. I don't want to sound like it was a cliche, but if there ever was a cliche, we know that, once he left that physical body, he said, God, I know this is a relief. You see what I'm saying? And it's interesting here because I have an aunt, well, a first cousin, she's just my mother's cousin, so, by her being my mother's cousin, respectfully, we call her aunt. And she made the transition in May. And when I was in Philadelphia, when I got back home, we contacted her because that's the type of thing that we need to start doing and quit being scared. No one is actually dead. You can contact anybody. So we contacted her and she was like, man, I never knew the freedom, because she got cremated. And she said, I never knew the freedom of being outside of this physical body. But one of the things about that was, this is a woman that was so afraid of death until she hung on for a couple of years. I mean, she was terrified of dying. But then she came to the reality, I'm tired of this. And when she finally made the transition, she was basically thankful. The point I'm trying to make here is, I know that that's what happened when it came to Muhammad Ali, as well as the brother that they just killed the other night. What's your guy? Stanley Tookie Williams. This is interesting here because never before in history, and when you talk about in the court of law, or in this realm of law, that they ever use the nickname, you see what I'm saying, to define somebody. So some TV, they went Tookie Williams, and that's a form of mind control. To try to dehumanize a person that you're going to kill, instead of saying Stanley Williams. Now you go to court of law, especially you follow some of these thug niggas down to the court of law and you didn't even know their name was Theodore. Theodore Johnson, you're like, who the hell that? That's the way it is in the court of law. But all of a sudden now we got national TV shows and national news broadcasts, and they talk about Tookie Williams. Or if they did say Stanley, they said Stanley Tookie Williams. No one puts that much emphasis on a doggone nickname, not unless they're trying to dehumanize a person for a certain situation. You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't get into what the thing, because I do believe the brother had to have been innocent. But I do know when he was, because he never admitted to it, to his, to the time he died. But one thing about it is I remember, I think it was Thursday, everybody was waiting over the weekend to see whether Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to pardon him. And I'm looking at it saying, well, he's a dead man for sure. He dead as fried chicken, because there's a new tape out. There's one by the guy, what's the guy named, that did a Road to 9/11 on it? Alex Jones. He did one this summer where they went and they traced everybody's history back to the Nazi Party. And so as far as his father was a member of the SS, and you don't even have to even go there. The man won his campaign by saying that I admired Adolf Hitler. That's right. You see, and but in this particular documentary, they even showed that his fellow bodybuilders from the 1970s, these black men that was with him in the 1970s, would talk about how Arnold Schwarzenegger would come up to them and talk about how inferior they were. So we're talking about a big-time racist here. You see, he would talk about how inferior they were, and that's Alex Jones. Alex Jones knew a video, Road to 9/11. So we know this as far as, and they trace several of them, the whole Bush thing. Even Peter Jennings, that just died and everybody loved him. He was such a great lover of jazz. He was also a person that got to go to Bohemian Grove. Now, Bohemian Grove is a place where they go and they do rituals and sacrifice on children. This particular video that came out this summer, they even showed where they had sacrificed a black guy, had the little black ball on the table. This is in the 1930s, but they try to show you the type of people that they sacrificed. And so Arnold Schwarzenegger, Peter Jennings was a part of that, and it's interesting because there's a new video that came out, it was in Nexus magazine this spring, and I forgot to order this thing. It's the one with, what's the people, Maxwell Jordan, David Icke. It's, the whole group of this, the conspiracy people, the conspiracy presenters. I don't want to say conspiracy theory, because I heard some black guy saying, oh, conspiracy theory. He said this just the other day, and I'm like, well, you should have a history of being conspired upon, that if anybody should know that it's not a theory, it's black people. I mean, even your grandmama know this stuff. That's right. You see what I'm saying? But see, we got this mind control, that's put in our head. So this tape is called Illuminati, All Conspiracy, No Theory. And in here, they give a group of people that they say is a part of this whole global elite. And it ain't got nothing to do, this whole thing is beyond color and race. We get into the racial thing on an individual level, but on a global elite, they say that survival is the best theology. You see what I'm saying? So they've gone beyond just the whole, because you got a whole thing that's going on with it's a political thing, but in so many words, it's based on a global elite, and if you don't fit a certain, in a certain group, you see what I'm saying? You are called a goyim, useless eaters, and there's a bunch of white folks that's up in that too. You see what I'm saying? So you got to understand this thing is bigger than that now. But one of the keys is they showed some of the people that was part of the global elite, and they had Sammy Davis Jr. hugging Anton LaVey and the whole Satanist thing. Then they flashed Michael Jackson. Now normally I thought, oh man, here they go, they messing with poor Michael again, but then I thought about something for a minute. Because we know about the global elite, these particular people, one of the things that they do over and over and over again, they deal with children. Pedophilia, rituals, and all these types of things. And I said, okay now, if Michael Jackson is a part of that, then it's interesting how he could walk up in a court and come out scot-free and they don't find none of these people guilty. In this last thing that happened. So I'm just trying to say, I'm not pointing the finger, but then again, on the other hand, we must look at things on a larger level, on what's going on, what's going on a larger level. You got the brother Dr. Blind in the house. Yeah, this is the brother that did the book, The Functionary, which is an excellent work you need to familiarize yourself with. But this is interesting about this. They flashed Michael Jackson. And normally I would say, well, they're just making these games, but these people study the global elite enough to know certain dealings. But then, when they flashed Michael Jackson, I said, well, he did get out of this child molestation thing, whether he did it or not. They honor that. That's what binds them together, is this whole child molestation thing. So even if he was a freelance agent doing it, as far as they're concerned, that's what makes them a brother. And that's what the whole Bohemian Grove thing is all about. And then, if I wasn't satisfied by that, I remember a conversation from two brothers that used to work for Madison Square Garden in New York in the 80s. And I met these brothers back in 1999, downtown Atlanta. And they told me this story, and I think I put it on some of my tapes. They said that we was there when because I think he came to Madison Square Garden, I think 2 times on the Thriller tour or whatever. And they said, well, we was working in Madison Square Garden and had this white man used to follow him around all the time. He said he used to have this bag with him. So they said, well, this is the money bag. They said, well, he's scheduled to come back to Madison Square Garden. The next time we come, we're going to distract this man. We're going to get that bag from him. So they said they did. So the next time he came, they distracted this man, got this bag, and they ran off and tried to look in it, and it was a transmitter. It was something that the guy had that followed Michael Jackson around. It was some type of radio transmitter. So we're talking about we're talking about people, what we call celebrities and these particular people that's involved. We could even say before they even put you up there and make you the superstar that you are, or allow you to become the superstar that you are, you might be in a whole lot of ritualistic stuff, you see. A whole lot of ritualistic stuff. So we must understand these particular things that's going on this particular time as we go on. Going back to the Stanley Williams thing, we know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was part that goes to the Bohemian Grove. We know that Arnold Schwarzenegger is part of the global elite. We also know that he would be the last person to pardon some type of black person. Then we must understand this also. Why is it that we don't never know about these people until the public gives them to us? You see what I'm saying? And no matter, and my point about that is this: how many books will be sold based on them executing him? See what I'm saying? The child books that he did. But nevertheless, it was still a mass ritual and a mass attack. What I say about that is, the very next day, I just kept feeling bad. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't based on Stanley Williams, because I already was resigned to the fact that he was fried chicken when I first heard about it. But it wasn't that. But the next day I just kept feeling bad, like I was sad about something. And what it was is, let you know what frequency we are on. I was picking up the vibes of thousands of black people that had tuned in just for a few days. Some people was only hip to him a couple of days before they fried him. Or they gave him the gas. And what I picked up, I think that they executed on that Monday, was it Monday night or whatever, and that Tuesday, all day that Tuesday, what I was picking up was this sadness of, basically how they can basically attack you. And although you say, well, I'm not getting involved with that, it's an attack on you. You understand what I'm saying? For the little bit of time that you tuned in, it was an attack. And I actually felt how black people was actually feeling, you see. And that's an attack, you see. They do it every Saturday night. If you watch the Sci-Fi Channel. Y'all all right?
Yeah.
If you watch the Sci-Fi Channel, most of the Sci-Fi Channel, when they have these movies made for Sci-Fi Channel, most of them, they always have a black person on there that gets killed.
That's right.
I might think they kill black people like more than diabetes on this channel, man. They had one black guy, he had long dreadlocks. He was on one weekend, he got killed when the show first came on. Then he was on another, about 2 weeks later, he was on another one of their presentations. He got killed about 20 minutes into the movie. And you got to understand, that's a ritual. That's a ritual to psychologically keep you damaged. Mentally. It's the same thing that happened with the major ritual. You heard me talk about major ritual that happened in the fall of '73 when they killed Jim Kelly in Enter the Dragon. And not only that, they put his body hanging up on the movie poster. You see what I'm saying? And other than Bruce Lee, I mean, they had John Saxon. He didn't even know martial arts at the time, and he survived. But Jim Kelly was a world martial arts champion, and he died. And this thing affected me when I saw it in '73. And I never would say anything about it. But they had the 25th anniversary of the Enter the Dragon, which is one of Bruce Lee's best movies, the one they put the money behind. And I said, man, I can't buy this tape. I said, I can't buy this, man. I can't go through that shit no more. Or you see what I'm saying? Or they killing Jim Kelly on a punk move like that. You see what I'm saying? But But that was a ritual. That was an actual ritual back then that they've been doing since the 1930s. So you see what I'm saying? But not then you can tell it was a ritual because they put his death on the movie poster. Which means if you didn't ever see the movie, you can see this poster, see this black man hanging up there dying, getting ready to get dropped in the ass, that you know the whole story. But my point here is that these are rituals that they do to psychologically impede or damage your spirit. You see what I'm saying? So things are going on a psychological level. The good part about that is this, about what happened with the Stanley Williams thing. The next day was the result when I felt the black people around the country actually on a level of sorrow. All the people was going about their business, no matter talked about it. There was something that was underneath. It was something, so consciously, you might be like, you know they were going to fry him, and they were going to do this, they were going to give him the gas. But on the subconscious level, you see what I'm saying? That was an attack, and so as a result, the good part about it is, because we're able to see, or because I'm able to feel it, and because you're able to sense it, it means that black people are becoming more and more in tune, more and more aware of things on a subconscious level. And that's what we're going to get into today with a lot of things we're going to deal with. Because we got a lot of information. But let me pour the libations. And so we can go into all this. Got a lot of books. But I just wanted to also say, like I said, the whole concept of rich pride, that was a major loss. You see what I'm saying? Because that was one of our conscious people. And my goodness, we're losing them every year. You know what I'm saying? So they killed Luther back here in June. Killed the brother. Now one thing I do know, if anybody that's ever been in trauma, or been in working a trauma unit, and you need to get the movie Critical Care with James Spader. Excellent movie. You want to know about the medical association and the medical establishment? Get that movie Critical Care, 1997, James Spader. And they basically said, we have the technology now to keep anybody alive. You see what I'm saying? So, if you know anything about a trauma unit, if they can cauterize the wound and stop the bleeding, you pretty much can stay alive. They can take your brain and hook it up to some tubes in your heart and keep it running. So, if they stop your bleeding 1 week, there's no way that Tupac can live a week and die after his bleeding was stopped a week before. It just don't happen if you understand the technology of what they can do in the medical field. You see what I'm saying? The Pope, John Paul, got shot and didn't die. You see what I'm saying? And this man was in his 70s, or late 60s at the time. So don't tell me a 24-year-old, or 22, I don't know how old he was at the time, 22 I think. 25. Huh? Well, whatever. He gets shot and he's strong enough to live a week, and then all of a sudden he dies a week later. That means that that's his one. It was feasible to kill him. You see. So, the medical profession, you see, they can keep people alive all they want to. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway. But it just goes to show you, if we talk about anybody that died at this particular time, it's because somebody is basically straight up killing you. You see what I'm saying? In these hospitals. It's very, very key that you understand that. Okay, let's pour the libation. We're just going to spit it to a few entities, and let's get this lecture on the way. All right. Wow, that was a big gulp there. Take me a little sip. Okay. All right, let's see. Awas, I say Pan, I say Ram, I say Lakshmi, I say Vishnu, I say Shiva, I say Hanuman, I say Kali, I say Kalima, I say Osa, I say Akset, I say Otinka, I say Teecha, I say Teola, I say Shula, I say Omagu, I say Akala, I say Lopeo, I say Kakapo, I say Lapto, I say Bonanes, I say Lilith, I say Pazuzu, I say Liritu, I say Lamb, I say Kama, I say Des, I say Wicked, I say Dudu, Let's see if we got some other ones over here. Sarah's daddy. Ashe. Heru, Sirius, Selket, Dionysus, Baltm, Mithra, very key, Mithra. Pay attention to Mithra because December the 25th is Mithra. And we're going to go into that today and all. That's, you got Horus is December the 25th, but the Christians got theirs from the god Mithra. Very key that you understand that. Mithra are also a god called Abraxas. That's Abraxas and Mithra, these very key Christ figures. And as I go into this, there's a reason why you eat fried chicken today. That's a spiritual thing. I got a 3,000-year-old Egyptian papyrus, and one of they things for the Christ figure is a symbol of some fried chicken. So, I'm going to go into that. You see. Okay. Urzuli, I say. Galatia, I say. Galippa, I say. Ners, I say. Nibiru, I say. Nibiru, I say. Tayuma, I say. Abbott, I say. Sutmesit, I say. Sutnubit, I say. Setesh, I say. Selket, I say. Dukabadi, I say. Simbi, I say. Ama, I say. Nomo, I say. Kuntu, I say. Jimtaria, I say. Anumaresh, I say. Apulikea, I say. Barnabas, I say. Fanaman, I say. Heru-Ma'at, I say. So we're going to go with that. And all the gods known and unknown, I say. Start calling out your ancestors. 1, 2, 3. Start calling out your ancestors. I say. 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 And we're going to call out Zarabam and the Apollo spirits. Ashe. All right, I'm going to get into some stuff that's actually going on with that, with a little warfare things that's going on. But I want to say this particular part, that the storm that we had, the Katrina, was a form of a purification, because here too is something that changed black people. But it was a purification. Now, I told you about, I think it was the last time I was in Virginia, I talked about how there was this preacher, this white boy that Benny Hinn and them were celebrating, that gave some prophecies about Katrina about a year before. Well, anybody can give prophecies, so, but they was really playing it up. Because anything they can get on the side of Jesus, they was really playing it up. Because the white boy said that New Orleans was going to be purified. Was going to be purified. And this is not talking about purified in the negative sense as you think. What was going on here is, in this particular book, The Pistis Sophia, the Gnostic Gospel by G.R.S. Mead. The Pistis Sophia is the Gnostic text that came out of ancient Egypt. Before 1945, where they dug up the Nag Hammadi library, they had the Pistis Sophia. And the Pistis Sophia was a Gnostic text, the one that survived from the ancient world, and this was pharaonic thought that was recorded in Coptic, recorded in Greek, recorded in Latin, and forms of Arabic. Now, we know now that the Egyptian priests, or the Hemmitt priests, were the ones that actually translated these texts into Greek, into Latin, into Arabic, and even into Hebrew. And we know this because they had prophecy. We have the actual prophecies from the Hermetic text that they knew that they weren't going to be around. As also the group, the Etruscans, they knew that they weren't going to be around. So they took steps to record stuff so it could survive in the languages that would be around. You see what I'm saying? So they took the languages of that day and recorded things, and they were great script writers. As a matter of fact, Dr. Walter Williams had given me some insight which verified the same thing that I thought about in 2000. When I said, well, how could the Greeks, the Romans, or anybody translate stuff from meta-meta if they didn't know meta-meta? It seemed to me that the person who would be able to translate this stuff from hieroglyphics would have to be the people that actually know it. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't plagiarize something if you don't know the system. So this means that they translated those languages because they knew that we were going to get those languages and certain amount of things needed to survive on the earth. Well, one of the texts, the stuff that they translated, was the Gnostic works that later on was stolen by so-called the Romans and called it Christianity. Even the word Jesus Christ did not originate in Rome and did not originate from the Jews. It originated out of Coptic Egypt. The Coptic Egyptians named the later day harvest figure Jesus Christ. You see what I'm saying? Now in this Pistis Sophia, they talk about one of the major steps that would have to happen to us as a people in a cosmic journey or an unfolding for us to become glorified spirits. There would have to be a great spiritual cleansing. They talk about in here the purifying mysteries in the Pistis Sophia. You see, the purifying mysteries. Man must go through the purifying mysteries. So, when the so-called preacher, this white boy, said that he had gotten this prophecy of New Orleans being purified, whatever it looked like on the physical realm, there was some stuff playing off on the spiritual realm and playing off in our inner constitution of our physical bodies, or what we would call what your spiritual bodies were going through. You got to understand these things. So, whatever happened with Katrina that we saw from the outside, it changed us forever on the inside. This is very key because when we go into this stuff tonight, we got to drive home over and over. We got to get closer and closer to try to find out what is happening to us spiritually. You see what I'm saying? Because when we look physically, you understand what I'm saying? There's some trauma going on. You see, mainly with bills and finances. That's the slavery. See what I'm saying? Now we know you got several tapes. You got the harp tape, the stuff that Brother Arlene did, if you can get a hold of that. Brother Phil Valentine did up in New York around Katrina. You got my Katrina tapes. You got several things. But one thing is known, that it was harp that took that particular hurricane and brought it, of course, to New Orleans and the whole 9 yards. See, it was also hard that gave you all the last fiasco that you had with this snow stuff that's been going on the last couple of weeks. All out of pocket. And in the day it's 50 degrees, 49 degrees. You see what I'm saying? But last week, you see what I'm saying? It was a disaster. That's hard. And that's hard doing something, number one, to offset things. And it also would be just to be hard to say, hey, look, in order to get this Christmas season going, you got to get into the spirit of it, and we need snow. And people buy. So my point here is we know this is weather modification, but the keys that I want you to focus on is this, to say that it's something, it's a psychological thing that's going on, and that is this. They sent the storm to Houston, Texas. It didn't hit Houston like they wanted it to. Basically, they directed it from Houston to Beaumont, Texas. Now, Beaumont, Texas, and Port Arthur, Texas, if you've ever been there, in that particular area, in Beaumont, Texas, has the largest oil refinery in the world. One of the largest in the world. And that was hit and became non-operational. That means that they purposely did this based on all this oil thing. In this particular case, where we get the real slack is this whole heating bill thing. You see what I'm saying? But my point here is it's talking about somebody is doing something to psychologically shut us down. You see what I'm saying? Because they know that on, there's certain things that's actually happening to us. And we're going to go into a couple of things, but certain things is happening and they know it. Now let me give you an example of some things. First of all, I want to say this. That if you get the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot deck by Louis Martini and Sally Ann Glassman, New Orleans Voodoo Tarot deck, And also, you can also get the book Voodoo Visions by Sally Ann Glassman.
Yeah.
And the Spirit will give me something, then I hear some black person quote it. That's when you know the frequency is on. And in this particular book, they talk about a section that goes this prevalent in the voodoo mysteries, and you get the word zombies. But we know, you saw the movie Serpent in the Rainbow with Wade Davis, where they could take a person's soul, trap it in a ball, and make a zombie out of it. I'm not talking about that. In this particular case, they're not talking about zombies that are made based on somebody doing some magical tricks. They were talking about zombies, and when you get those New Orleans Voodoo Tarot deck, and inside there's a superior book in the deck. You can get Sally Ann Glassman's book, Voodoo Visions, which is an excellent book. There's a section where they talk about a section of people, or a group of people, or a race of zombies. And when you think about that, you'll see where they're systematically breaking down black people compared to the people that's awake, which is very few, and regular common folks you call black folks as just zombies that you have had to deal with, which is talking about the unconscious person that don't want to know nothing. So in so many words, what we've been calling dead folks in the black conscious community, they call zombies. You see what I'm saying? Which coincides to movies like, new movies since 2003, 28 Days Later, Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead, City of the Dead. There's tons of these movies. House of the Dead. But it's always these mindless zombies. And in the one Land of the Dead, the last one, it had the zombies being led by a big black figure. You see what I'm saying? So, obviously, they're talking about something other than some magical operation that went on a person. They're talking about a certain group of people, zombies. And I'm like, this is profound. I'm looking at this book and I'm saying, well, this is happening before our eyes. We literally have zombies. And a zombie is something that has been turned into a zombie, not this particular case as a magical operation, but it is a magical operation when you talk about the civilization we live in and how society turns people into mindless zombies. But it's not just it's the zombies in voodoo, but it's also called the goyim in the Hebrew mysteries. You see what I'm saying? So putting these pieces together, you can't leave out no baby, you can't throw the babies out with the bathwater, including the good old Bible. What I mean by that is, if these particular scriptures were plagiarized and edited for a person's theology, they are still ancient scriptures nonetheless. The only thing you have to do is when you go into the Bible, do not read it with any previous thought of theology in which you were trained. Just read the page as if you don't know anything about it. You don't know nothing about Abraham and Isaac or nobody. Adam and Eve, you're just going to read the page like it's an internet sheet or like it's anything somebody put before you, but don't read the page with a theology that's already been preset or predisposed. You see what I'm saying? And then what will happen here is you will find out that a lot of the stuff in there is real mystical, especially the book of Matthew. You see what I'm saying? And you start with Matthew 45, I will give you the treasures of darkness. And then start reading all of the stuff that follows after you can read the whole book, but all of the stuff that follows after that, you will find out that this is an alchemical text. Remember now, they just took tons of these particular texts out of the Library of Alexandria, and they just started editing them and trying to fit them into a theology. But if you get rid of the theology and just read the text itself, like the Tanakh is what you know is a form of the Torah, the Hebrew Torah, which in the Bible, you get a Bible this thick, and it's got Old and New Testament. But yet the Jews got a Testament, Old Testament this thick. To let you know that something is a heavily edited version, so you need to get the Tanakh. But the concept here is you're not going to read it from a Hebrew perspective or a Christian perspective or a Muslim perspective. You're just going to just survey the text and read the text as if you are a scientist. You see what I'm saying? Or as if you are an editor. that's just trying to see what certain things say and not what is something that is taught to you to say a certain way. This is the way you can get back to the ancient texts in which they were before they became a theology for a certain set or group. You understand how this is going? These are things that you can tap into and things that you can catch on to, because if never before, we are so close, and I know I've been saying this for a while, but Katrina ought to taught you that something got to give. Not only that, let's just look at this Emmett Till's 50th anniversary of his death. 2 weeks after his death, Rosa Parks steps on the bus. So this is the December the 1st, so the 2nd was the 50th anniversary of Rosa Parks stepping on the bus, and then she makes the transition. Then you got to look at a certain amount of energy that's going on behind the way certain things come to be that they are. You see what I'm saying? You see, and you can even add Richard Pryor up in there as well as other things. Everything is everything because that was a conscious person. You see what I'm saying? So we're talking about certain cycles. You see, you can even add how the government apologized for lynchings the day of the Michael Jackson trial. So everything is everything, but we're dealing with things that is a blueprint to say that they know something is going on, and we're going to go into this in a few minutes on what these particular things are. But my point here is, why would they go and direct the hawk to Beaumont, Texas, to destroy a particular oil well, one of the biggest oil wells in the country? Then you know in actuality they deliberately are trying to shut this country down. So just follow with me so we can deal with some of these things. Like, take for instance, you need to go get the movie Storyville. I talked about this before. And the brother Arlene's tape, where he talks about the Louisiana Purchase and some particular thing about the Louisiana Purchase and how they were sending the money, America was sending the money to France to pay for the Louisiana Purchase, and something about the money sinking below the ocean. So therefore, the actual Louisiana Purchase didn't go forth, and that means that when you're dealing with this thing as far as who the land originally belonged to, it had to belong to indigenous people. You see what I'm saying? Now, so what I'm trying to say here as an intelligentsia, the brother Arlene put this forth. Anybody heard this before? About the Louisiana Purchase and it's thinking. So my point here is, we need to have somebody to do research on that. Because now what we're talking about here is we got to have an intelligentsia. We can't just have group of people come and say things before you and you don't go and do the homework.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? You got to do the research. I guarantee you, if it was about getting some money, you'd be burning the midnight oil. Y'all niggas is experts on it. Every nigga's a real estate agent now. Experts. But you need to do research. Everything is everything psychologically. Let me give you an example of stuff. Even the most minute thing. There's a sister named Angela down in Atlanta, a conscious sister. She was telling me the other night, we were riding around with her in the car. She was saying, well, she had a daughter that worked at Macy's. In the bath department, linen, bathroom towels, and all this. And she said they would come in and they would buy towels. They would buy the big towels, the short towels. They would buy the kind of hand towels that hang on the wall. But they never would buy washcloths. They never would buy washcloths. So she was saying, well, there's some nasty people, they don't buy washcloths. And I said, hold on, wait a minute now, hold on now. You need to look at this. I was up in the hotel room and they had hand towels, they had big towels, they didn't have no washcloths. And why is it that these white folks can know, do you go to Macy's? Don't mess around and buy no washcloths. Because what they already know, one thing about this too, you don't never supposed to use a washcloth. You go to a person's house, motherfucker hand you a washcloth, you're supposed to get in the shower and wipe off a shower. You don't know about the washcloth.
That's correct.
Something done been around a nigga balls and up somebody's ass. So I was like, no, the white folks got that right. They were smart enough to know, hey, this is an industry we don't even sell these things. And I said, then she told me this, and I was in this hotel last night. I'm looking, I said, damn, there ain't no washcloth inside. You see? But it was interesting because when I met, and I didn't know why I did this though. Because, you know, I do these lectures, so I have to stay in a lot of people's homes. And black people hand me the towel and hand me a washcloth. And I don't know what it was psychologically. I never would use a washcloth. And it wasn't because I wasn't aware that I wasn't using it because it was good on somebody's ass. I just thought psychologically this lady me, I would take the washcloth, put it in the shower, wet it up, bring it out, put it on and make it like that. I wouldn't use the washcloth. And it wasn't until I had somebody to come and co-sign on my badness. When my queen moved down, she said, I don't fuck with nobody with washcloth. You know, unless, you know, and then I realized it. So when the sister Angela was saying, making an observation on what they do in these places, they won't sell washcloths, and she was saying, oh, that was nasty. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on now. Because we done hit upon this shit ourselves. You see what I'm saying? And I did subconscious. So what I'm trying to say here is, every little minute, I don't know where that came from, but every little minute thing is something. And whenever I just go off left field and just talk about some washcloth been on somebody's ass, that's them spirits. That's the spirits. But what's that, brother?
When you were talking about the landlords,
yeah,
Turtle Island.
Yeah.
Okay. Last week, for some reason, something told me to watch the TV program Numbers. Okay. And last week, the Native Americans in the episode running these casinos. There's a white girl at a museum that found a skull in an area where they were digging to excavate to build a building. So the Native Americans sought to seize the skull because they said that their ancestors had lived in that area, so therefore that was a burial ground. Come to find out, the European had doctored up a skull. But they didn't allude to that in the program, but what I got from when I went to Egypt is that they got a skull, and they doctored up, planted it in the damn ground, and now the Europeans trying to say the oldest skull they found in North America is a European. Okay.
They started this.
So in that same episode, when it broke for commercial, they was talking about this new anthropological recreation. How they're gonna make King Tut look like a white boy behind that mask.
Yeah. So already done it. Yeah.
So what the Native American was saying as they lock him up, they say, what you don't understand about that skull is that skull can affect everything in the history of the Native Americans, as far as who owns the damn land.
Yeah.
So the European can get everybody to believe that skull that's 10,000 years old, fell to North America, will mean that the Native Americans were never here, but the white boy was here first.
Well, they already started doing it in South Africa. And the History Channel even did a piece on it. And they said it might not look like anything now. They built a theme park in South Africa to the original Afrikaners, or the original African white people that was indigenously there. And they got a theme park about these indigenous white folks that was in that land. Now, it might sound ridiculous now, but 100 years later,
somebody gonna believe that shit.
Somebody come up there and they would believe. You know what I'm saying? And just, I saw it in my lifetime one day when I was real young, and I got mad at myself for liking some big band that was actually Duke Ellington I was hearing, but I thought it was a white person's music. Just in a few short years of not having the type of training historically. So you see what I'm saying? So now, what I was saying was, there's a movie that's called Storyville. Now, I talked about that the last time I was in Virginia. There's a movie called Storyville. You got to get that movie. It came out in 1992. James Spader. You know James Spader in this thing again. Storyville. And this movie is about these deaths going on in New Orleans around this part of Storyville. And make a long story short, it's a white movie. To the end of the movie, it all comes out where these black people got land down there and they're trying to take the land because of oil. See what I'm saying? So this movie in 2002, you see what I'm saying, is a precursor to let you know what's going on with the Ninth Ward and all the whole thing that went down. And all you got to go is get the movie James Spade up, and ironically, guess what? These people toy with our minds. Do you know the day that Katrina hit? The week that Katrina hit? Storyville came on the Fox, on the Stars Network, on the Stars Network. They got several Stars channels, about 15 of them. And the Storyville started playing on the cable during Katrina. See what I'm saying? To give me an example, let me show you how everything is everything. They got a story, they got a show on Showtime called Masters of Horror. Come on every Friday night. So we watched one of these Masters of Horror, and it was about some zombies that came back from Iraq. They were dead soldiers that rose from the dead. And they came back from Iraq. And they would go to the polls. All they wanted to do was to go to the polls. They couldn't kill them because they was dead. They was already zombies. So they let them go to the polls and they voted. And they were trying to vote the president out of office because the president lied to them about weapons of mass destruction. And they got killed for nothing. I'm like, they're just telling us stuff. So they would vote, and they'd fall out and die. So they had enough folks to vote Bush out of office. They never said anything. They just said the president that sent us to war and lied to us, we didn't find no weapons of mass destruction. So they don't have to say Bush.
That's right, we know what it is.
So they voted Bush out of office, the zombies, and then they fell out and died. And then Bush people or the so-called people that elect say, oh, we can fix this. Let's go down to Florida and fix the election. And Bush ends up winning. So they took 2000 and 2005 and jammed it together. And Bush ends up winning, and the zombies get mad and come back, reanimate, come back to life and start killing people. But I'm saying, this thing is so amazing that they're telling you this stuff right out in the open. You see what I'm saying? You see, hold on, let me do it because the comments can be all open. Okay, right out in the open. You see what I'm saying? So my point here is, the movie Storyville also proves what the brother Ali was saying about something about this Louisiana Purchase. But then again, on the other hand, I say that to tell you this. The History Channel did a thing on the Louisiana Purchase in 2003. And they said the whole reason why it went down, they said because in so many words they said that France was defeated, that would later on lead to Waterloo. It started with the first defeat from a little island in the Atlantic, or in the Western Hemisphere, called Haiti. And they said that Napoleon lost his best generals that he would need for when he was finally defeated at Waterloo and was defeated with Russia, because he got his behind whipped in Russia. He lost all of the best strategists and generals down in Haiti. They either got killed or either what didn't get killed, yellow fever wiped them out. And thus this started the demise of France being a world superpower, because they were a superpower in the 17 and early 1800s with Napoleon. But it's this one particular island that started the demise. Well, we can say the same thing is happening now with Iraq. Because it's not just an island, but it's a group of people called insurgents that no matter what you do, you can't never get rid of them. And he's so arrogant and said, well, we will come out of there once we quail or once we stop the insurgents. How you going to stop a person from waking up one day and saying, I believe I'm going to strap a bomb to my behind? Call Allah. And you see what I'm saying? Allah. These people are getting so sophisticated. Now, I told the people in 2003, they're going to go in there and they're going to never be able to come out. Because of ego and because of escalation of things, they are happy about this old elections today. Oh, now the Republicans said, oh yeah, now we got the election, so we told you it was good to go in Iraq. Well, you didn't go in Iraq for no elections in the first place. Right. Number two, we are all know about elections, one man, one vote. We got that in this country. And look at our ass. You get that picture? We've seen this movie before. So my point here is this insurgence thing is going to keep them there, but in so many words, it's going to destroy the country. Now, if you study Bush, it means that Bush was designed to tear down the country. That was his job. You say, well, why would he want to destroy the country? Well, if he works for a global elite, and most of them are outside of this particular country, it's nothing for them to want to destroy America. He came on the day and said, oh yeah, I gave the order to blow all these people's phones. So they're just coming out saying things that normally, if you looked at past years, they would never say. This means that his job is to tear down the country. That was whatever he's doing. And one thing about this particular tape called Illuminati, All Conspiracy, No Theory, with Anthony Hilda and all them, they say, whoever he works for, he's more scared of them than he is you. What these cats is capable of doing. And their thing here is to destroy the country. Now they're destroying the country because of an isolation of some people that they have isolated, that they know what's happening. We'll get that in a few minutes. But they're destroying, so that's his job. So when you look, and as a result it's starting to work because you see the in crowd fighting against each other every day. And what's going to break them is these boys are going to start dying and they can't come home. Number one, they can't come home because it's spiritual. Right. There's some spiritual forces in there. But number two, based on ego. Now, what we're into right now, and this involves all of us. I'm going to be honest with you right now. If you don't know nothing now, this whole separation in the aspect of this, that we are somewhat spiritual people. Have you looked at black people lately? I'm concerned about this because we ain't got nothing spiritual about us. The religion is gone, you know, and we fell for that thing, but I'm just trying to say here, we have become creatures of this doggone society, this death and mayhem and this Frankenstein society. We are more affected than anybody else. So a lot of things about us being spiritual don't hold no water, especially on the physical level. You see what I'm saying? On the physical level. But that is because at this particular time, and this is the thing that it only matters based on us. We are now, and this is going to hit right at home. There's what is going on at this particular time is what is called an apocalypse